Hi, welcome to the Diane Ingram Show. I'm your host, life coach Diane Ingram. Today we're going to be speaking with Jackie Muller, licensed clinical social worker. Jackie has wanted to write a book for a long time. She's been on this show a couple other times, and she's trying to create a habit of sitting down and working on her book at a regular time each week. So we'll see how that goes for her. Last we spoke to her, she was going to contact me after she sat down each week. She was trying to do it on Sunday mornings because she thought that would be the best time for her. I heard from her a few times, but not every time. So we'll see how that worked for her and see how we can help her to get more regular in that habit. One of the great things that Jackie came up with over the time of working here is that she discovered that by walking, she could clear her head and kind of sort through some of the ideas for her book. And in doing so, she's lost quite a bit of weight and she looks terrific. Oftentimes, when we have a goal to create something, we bring in other tools to help us, and it can actually enhance other parts of our lives. That's the wonderful thing about changing one piece of our life. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, like we have all these areas of our life that are out of sync or not working the way we want them to. And so if we can just focus on one area and make a change in that, it affects all the other areas because they're all connected. So what vision do you have that you'd like to bring to life, and what tools might you use to make that happen? Would it be helpful for you to start going for a walk and sorting things out in your head? Exercise is wonderful for that. It clears your head, it allows you to collect your thoughts, it gets you breathing some nice, good oxygen outside, and there is inspiration in nature. So that's one of the things you can do. The other thing is to find who in your life could support you in moving forward with the project that you want to do. In this case, Jackie's calling me and just sending me an email to say she did it or she didn't. So is there anyone in your life who could be there to support you in that way? We all need support, especially in these big projects that are challenging for us. In these big projects that don't fit into our lives in a normal way because we have all these other things we're working on. All the things we have to do with our children, with our families, with ourselves, with our jobs. So let's see how Jackie did. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Today we're here with Jackie Muller, licensed clinical social worker. Welcome, Jackie.
Hi, Diane.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me again.
Yep.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you. So last time we were together, you committed to working on your book, which is an ongoing project, and you committed to doing 2 hours on Sundays and emailing me each week after you doing the 2 hours to let me know what kind of progress you had made.
Right, and as you know, I have not been on top of that as much as I had hoped to be. I did send you out one email that we did go back and forth about, and you gave me some reference information about a book that might help me in this process. So that was very helpful. I did get the book. I've started reading that.
And what did you get out of that book? That book is actually Daniel Pointer's this guide to self-publishing or self-publishing manual, something like that. Right. So there's some things in there about step-by-step approaches to writing your own book and then taking it towards self-publishing. Right. Anything that came out of that was informational or inspirational or?
Well, I started reading it. I haven't gotten very far into it, and part of, as you know, my process has been the exercise and the walking to get my mind clear, which I was doing daily up until I had an injury, so that kind of had a setback. So I was thinking on the way here, I don't want to come in with a bunch of excuses as to why I wasn't on top of the goals that I set for myself, but they were real life excuses. I think sometimes I'm harder on myself, you know. I have this idea that I should be going 100 miles an hour when I really can't do that, and as it happened, the injury to my ankle slowed me down a bit. So there was a physical reality to that too.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like an excuse. It sounds like something that happened. And so oftentimes that happens in life. You know, things come up, events happen that are outside of our control. So what happened to your ankle? Was this when you were walking?
Well, as a result of my walking, got involved with a fit club, and we joined a relay race called the Tough Mudder, and on one of the obstacles I fell and rolled my ankle. So it was a torn ligament, and then I was on crutches. So everything that I normally do in my day-to-day routine became a little bit longer, more time to do it. So it kind of cut into the me time that I was hoping to have. And even on the weekends, it was just, you know, trying to get through the discomfort of the injury, but also then trying to find time to organize the different parts of my life. So I've been having a challenge with that. So I think today I was thinking of maybe trying to figure out a way to organize.
Okay, so let's just go back for a minute. So when this happened to you, is there a silver lining, or were you able to find kind of the good in that happening, or some way in which that changed the way you were being, and any kind of insight that came out of that?
Absolutely. Everything is a life lesson,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So I think that what I learned from the injury is that, you know, you can push yourself as far as you can go, but there are limitations, and the limitations are meant to kind of keep you balanced so that you're not burning yourself out. Taking on this added project, I think with the busyness of my life at this particular time, I guess for whatever the reasons are.
You have a young son.
Right, and a business, and you know, daughters, and a lot of things in my life that take priority to
and
the
you're
me
a
time.
single parent, so you've got a lot on your plate.
Right.
And your son doesn't drive, so he's going to sporting events and all kinds of events that you need to taxi him around.
Right. And I did try to bring my book to write while I was on the sideline and stuff, but then you know, as a parent yourself, that you're sitting there and your neighbor comes up or the other parents are around and you start talking, and that me time is not realistic either.
Yes, and I was just coaching another client about this yesterday of how ways to handle that, so that, I mean, if you really want to spend your time talking with that person, by all means, but if you really need that time for yourself, you can very gently say, you know, you can talk for a little bit and say, well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, but I have some work I need to do, so I'm going to actually move over here and do some work. Or you can set yourself apart, and everyone comes over and say, you know what, I really enjoy your company, but right now I need, you know, there's all various ways that you can set a boundary like that without offending people. And if it offends them, then they don't quite understand that, you know, so be it. But it's important to make sure that the time that you have on this earth, that you're spending it in the way you want to be spending it. And I know that, you know, I've been in that experience many times with my children and lots of things where I'm kind of, okay, this is great. I'm going to use this time to write in my journal or to schedule my week or whatever. And someone comes up and boop, there it goes. So, yeah, so see if you can, if you choose, see if you can take that a step further in expressing what you need. But,
well, I was doing some of that, what you're talking about, but I found that because there's so many things that I'm involved in, that some of that time was spent either developing a flyer for the networking group I'm part of, or the Fit Club, or things like that. So I think I have this preconceived notion that I have to have this extremely quiet time, and there's a certain setting to have to be able to write a book, and I think I'm trying to break through that. And
yeah, I mean, that's wonderful and ideal, but if you don't have that, is it possible to kind of how could you get to that place? What do you think would support you getting to a place where you could settle into yourself and do some writing?
I think what I see, because I did a lot more writing last summer, and I spent the weekends up at our camper, so there's no telephone, there's no TV, there's a lot of the creature comforts are not there, because there's other things that we do, and there's a lot more downtime in between, so I'm looking forward to that now that we have it open, maybe going there a little bit on the weekends and spending time away from all the distractions.
Very nice. But if you are in a place where there are distractions and you think you could steal away some time, is there any way that you can make that work for you too?
That's going to be more of a challenge.
I mean, sometimes you can use that time doing less creative things, in that you're not generating something from completely nothing. Maybe that's the time where you write in your journal, you know, or just kind of say, where am I now? And reflect on your life or something like that, just to kind of get that writing muscle going, but you're not kind of pulling something together that's You know what I'm saying? There's like different levels of creating. And so you're not going to kind of this level of creating where you have to just come up with something.
Right.
And those times are better to have complete quiet and no distractions. But maybe some level of just whatever busy work you have in your life, maybe sketching out a flyer there or something like that, some of those other things. And I also want to ask you about some of the projects that you're involved in your life. I know it's really hard to say no when you're, especially when your child's young and there's lots of things to get involved in, but do you feel like they're contributing to your overall life? Do you feel like you're saying yes because you should or you have to, or is it coming? It's really important. It's coming from a place of something that you really want to be doing too.
Well, one of the things that had, I think, worn out its usefulness in terms of my life, but not in my son's life, has transitioned, and now he's moved on to a troop instead of me running the Cub Scout group, which I loved doing, but it was kind of, they were getting older, they needed more things to challenge them than I was able to give. I mean, after 10, they don't want to do arts and crafts and things like that, so he's moved on to the troop, so that's freed up some of my thinking time.
Yeah.
I was also thinking most of the time I do a lot of my idea finding or developing in my head while I'm driving.
Wonderful.
Most of the time I'm quiet by myself in the car, you know, so as we were speaking, I was like, well, how could I capture some of those thoughts and ideas? And I realized someone showed me on my iPhone, I'm not very technologically savvy, but there's an app on there, I think, that you can record your voice. So maybe
I have it on my phone,
yeah,
and I come up with song ideas, and there it goes, and you can just put the idea right in there.
Right.
It's really easy.
So that would be a time that I would be not distracted by other people, and I have control over whether the radio's on or not.
Exactly, and we spend a lot of time in our cars driving around. So yes, yeah, where we live, and so exactly. So driving around and using that time a little bit more fruitfully. Especially because those ideas come at that time when you're alone and doing something that's a little more automatic, like driving.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll try that a little bit more and see how that, then it's going to be a matter of transcribing it.
Right.
But at least I would have it down, because I think what happens is I have ideas for paragraphs or chapters and developing it, and then when I get to wherever I am, my office or whatever, it's jump into work mode or jump into mom mode, and it gets lost. And then when I try to sit down and recapture it, it's kind of lost its flavor that it originally had, and I can't quite do that. But the taping my voice maybe would help.
And when you say it lost its flavor, what do you mean by that?
It changes. It's not the same way that the idea came through very clear.
Yeah.
Almost like I can, if I was able to stop right there on the side of the road, maybe sometimes I might be able to try that too. But if I wrote it down, it would be totally different than my recollection of what I was thinking about.
And as it changes, is it an evolution? Like, does it get better? Does it kind of grow? Because things do evolve and change all the time.
Right. For me, I think I lose some of it. It's like I get an original punchline, or I can't think of the words to use, but I get the idea very clearly, and it's developed a little bit. And then when I try to sit down and remember what I was thinking about, I could have forgot the quote I wanted to tie into it, forgot, you know, the life experience that flavored that, you know, and it falls apart a little bit.
Right. So Jackie, what's going to support you in finding this time? Because it sounds like this book is so wanting to come through you.
I feel like it does, and some of it is I'm disappointed that I haven't set or made the time to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's part of that. And
so how does that disappointment, what does that disappointment do when that shows up? Does that stop you, or?
No, it's not stopping me. I'm coming here today to admit to not having followed
and
through.
I acknowledge you for having the courage to do that.
Well, I think
because a lot of people don't want to admit when things don't turn out the way they, you know, the way they want them to. But it's really important to look at what's in the way of that. So what is it, do you think?
I think part of what's in the way is the idea that I had a preconceived notion that it had to be a certain way by a certain time. You know, that maybe it may be some people sit down and channel a book out in 3 days, and some might take a little longer, you know.
I think
so.
most people take a little longer.
Right.
I think a lot of that's, you hear these things and you think, oh, well, that's what I should be able to do.
Right.
And if you can't, then you get disappointed in yourself and discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
So what would support you in your process and it coming through in the way it needs to come through?
Getting a little more comfortable with the technology I have so that I can maximize its use.
Okay.
You know, whether it's recording my voice or even using the laptop, you know, keeping on top of keeping that charged.
Okay, and what do you need to, so what do you need to do to get more comfortable with that?
Maybe put it in an area where I know that I normally have a routine, like plugging in my cell phone every night. The laptop has to be there too, so this way it's ready to go the next day.
Okay.
You know? And then if I am somewhere where I can't plug in, I have the opportunity to use that to type down my ideas.
So why don't you, I've given you a little card here, so why don't, that sounds like something that really support you. So plugging in each night your laptop and your phone and making sure it's all charged up and ready to roll. And what else would support you?
Again, finding a time that I can actually do it.
Yeah.
Know?
So
that
you talked about Sunday mornings.
Right.
What else is competing for your time at that point? Because that's critical, that we find the time slot. Because we could say we want to do all kinds of things, but if we don't carve out the time, because time is finite, if we don't carve out the time, it's not going to happen. So,
the only thing I can say that competes with my time is the interruption of having a young child, because as soon as I'm sitting down doing something, he comes in and, can I do this, or can you make me that, you know?
Right.
I'm hungry, can we go to wherever, you know?
Yeah, so what could you say to him? You know, I urge clients all the time, because this is an ongoing issue, is that, you know, is to say, look, I need these next 2 hours to be uninterrupted. So they need to be sacred for you and sacred for your child. And it doesn't have to be sacred for him, because he may not understand that concept. But just, this is really important to me. So if you have anything to say other than if you're bleeding, you need to leave me alone. You know, write it down, and as soon as I'm out, I'll have time with you. Or before, you know, we can spend this next half hour talking about what you might want to do over the next 2 hours. And then I need to be left alone. You know, is that a conversation?
I know what I could do.
Yeah?
I could ask him to tell me when the Yankee game schedule is, because then while that's on, maybe I can write, because he doesn't want to be interrupted when the Yankees are playing.
Okay, so that's something to write down too. So that might be perfect, actually. And how long are those games usually?
No.
long enough, right? I think at least 2 hours.
So coordinate the schedule with his.
Yeah, and also just, you know, there's something very important about saying to your child or your husband or whoever might be interrupting you, your friends, you know, the phone ringing, is to shut all that off and say, this is my special time to do this vision, to create this vision that I'm holding that's really dear to my heart and really important to me.
Right. I do notice that with the social media, I was getting a little bit, like I'd have it on, but be doing other things. And then if I went to check an email or something, it was there and somebody's like, hey, how you doing? And you get swept into a conversation.
Absolutely.
So
sometimes
I shut the computer down now so that I don't see
Wonderful.
that unless I want to go see it. You know?
Wonderful. So are you willing to commit to these things between
Yes.
now and next time we meet? And is there anything else that you can think you would like to add to this that would support you? Do you want to
finish the book that I started?
Finish reading the book. And do you want to try again the weekly emails?
Yes.
Okay.
I will.
And you can just shoot that to me and say, you know what, it didn't work today, or it did work. Whatever you have to say, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
So if you could just kind of have it be part of your end deal as you shoot an email off to Diane. And whatever, there's no judgment with that.
So after I work on it, whether it's any day of the week, whenever, I'll just shoot you an email
Yeah.
and say, worked on the book for an hour today.
Yeah. And you could even add to that how you feel about that.
Okay.
You know, so, because once again, it's important to tune in. How did that shift your state of being? Like, wow, I feel inspired. I feel a little bit vulnerable. I feel a little tender about that. You know, so tap into how I feel about that.
All right, great.
Wow, I look forward to seeing you next month. And I know your ankle slowed you down, but you look terrific. And
good.
Congratulations again for all the weight you've lost from doing
Thank
the
you.
walking.
Well,
And
part of this was the inspiration for it too.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm so
Thanks.
happy about that. It's great being with you, Jackie.
Same
so
here,
we'll see
Diane.
you again
Thanks for
soon.
having me again.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Stay tuned. Welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about a new book I've started reading. I'm not through it yet, but it's very exciting. I wanted to share it with you. It's called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. He is an investigative reporter at the New York Times. And what he investigated in this book, he pulled together all kinds of science and research about habits. And what he came up with, at least in the first part of the book, is that we create habits by what's called having a cue, having a response to the cue, and a reward. And he cites places in advertising. For instance, Pepsodent toothpaste. Years ago, they couldn't convince people they needed to buy toothpaste because prior to that, people weren't regularly brushing their teeth, and they had terrible teeth. So the advertising director came up with this idea after doing a bunch of research that there's this film that happens on your teeth. So the cue is to get rid of the film. The response is to brush every day, and the reward is you get this bright smile. And that advertising campaign actually caused toothpaste to take off. So it's really interesting to read how those kind of things work. So cue, response, and reward. There's another piece that they discovered called a craving. One of the things they did with toothpaste is they put this minty taste in it, which actually makes your tongue and your mouth tingle. And what that does is, when you think of brushing your teeth, you kind of crave that tingle feeling, which makes it feel nice and clean. Actually, it has nothing to do with cleaning your teeth, but the feeling creates this response in you, this craving to have that clean feeling in your mouth that it causes you to go and brush your teeth. So another example he gives is exercise. For instance, running. The cue could be putting your shoes by your bed to remind you to go out and run each morning. Or the cue could be that when your alarm goes off in the morning, the first thing you do is jump out of bed and put on your shoes and get out the door. The response is the running. And the reward is the good feeling you have, the sense of accomplishment. And the craving piece is the endorphins, the really good feeling you feel from the chemicals released in your brain. So look at your life and see where your habits are, what you need to do to set up a really strong cue for yourself that'll create a response, and what kind of reward it can bring to you. And check out this book, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Really fun, inspiring reading to see how we are just creatures of habit. And when we get the habits right, we get to live the life we want to be living. Stay tuned to the end. Thank you. Welcome back. Today we met with Jackie, and she's still struggling with trying to find in her life where to put her book writing. So she's going to try writing her book while her son's watching the Yankee game, and then she'll reach out to me afterwards. So we'll see how that works for her. We also talked about habits, how to establish them. So look in your life and see where is a habit. Where is something you'd like to create for yourself that a habit would help you put in place? We are creatures of habit. If you look at your life, we do certain things the same way every day, which allows us to not have to use brain power every time we go to do something and think about, okay, I got to do this, this, and this. We just are in the habit of it and we go through it. But when you want to create a new habit, it's important to come up with a cue, which creates a response, and then give yourself a reward. One of the rewards I often talk about with people is when they want to do anything in their lives, make any kind of changes, I talk about what well-being quality will be enhanced or will be brought in by you doing this one thing. Sometimes they say, I'll feel accomplished, I'll feel so proud of myself, I'll feel this sense of freedom, I'll feel so excited to have a creation, in the case of Jackie, a book she wrote. She ended up walking and losing weight, so she feels really healthy and she's feeling younger and lighter and more energy. So when you clue in to what well-being qualities are going to come by you creating a certain habit, that's the reward. And so the craving that we talked about in the book segment becomes craving that reward, that sense of accomplishment, that feeling of pride, that sense that, wow, I have something that I created. Oftentimes people talk about wanting to lose weight. And when we think about what we want to get rid of, lose weight, quit smoking, get rid of stress, we're still looking backwards about what we want to get rid of. If we think about what will we have when we do those things, that pulls us forward into the reward piece. Losing weight is a key piece. If you want to lose weight, find a dress that you want to fit into, or a bikini, or a pair of pants, a favorite pair of pants that you want to feel comfortable in. And hang that article of clothing where you can see it, maybe in front of the refrigerator. Try that article of clothing on every now and then. And the reward is, as you eat less, exercise more, and start to lose weight, you'll start to feel more comfortable in that favorite thing. And the ultimate reward is when you can put that on, wear it out in public, and feel really comfortable in that piece of clothing. So it's self-reinforcing. It's really a terrific way. Let me know, email me, let me know what habit you would like to create for yourself, or maybe you've already started one. What's the cue? How did it cause you to respond? And what's the reward that you're going to have for yourself? The reward piece is really important, and it's important that it's a positive reward, you know, some way that supports you in being where you want to be in life. But make sure you give yourself some kind of reward, even if it's just enjoying that good feeling that you have after doing that particular thing. And that's going to strengthen your habit and cause you to do it day after day after day and create the life that you want to be living. It's been a pleasure being with you today. Tune in next time. I look forward to hearing from you. Email me. You've been watching The Diane Ingram Show. Take care.